Hello, welcome to Better Conversations. I'm here with Mag.
Yes, and we have color coordinated, well, not color coordinated, it's style
With
coordinated
yes,
today,
with
Desperate Dan and friends.
that wasn't planned, right? That was just
No, it was
it was
not
like
planned.
stripes, and apparently it's like wear plain light colors or plain dark colors, but don't
I
do
know.
stripes and patterns.
But we're kind of rebels.
Yes,
We're
we
kind of
are.
rebels,
We
I
are.
think.
That works. So, welcome to Better Conversations Live. Do drop in the chat. We're starting to get a little bit better to note when people are on and wanting to engage. So, yeah, do drop a comment there. And if you're watching the replay, the comments and discussions will be down below. Um, okay, just something coming up on my screen about LinkedIn, having trouble streaming there. We will continue. So, we are here on Tuesdays at 1 o'clock UK time. LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and you can also find us Better Conversations Live. So, 1 p.m. UK time is what, Mag?
Oh no, here we go. 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 2 p.m. Central European Time, 5:30 p.m. This is where it gets frightening.
India Standard Time.
India Standard Time, 10 p.m. What is AEST?
Australia, East Coast.
Australia East Coast.
Yes.
And the West Coast are just going to have to figure it out.
Somewhere in
Somewhere in the middle.
between. Yeah.
Good.
It's
Okay.
not
Well,
fair, really,
welcome
but
to
yes.
all. I think a diverse
Yes.
audience is more than welcome, and looking forward to hearing your views in the comments.
Yes, definitely. So, Mag and I we're going to be exploring some distinctions around coaching, therapy, and mentoring, because sometimes it can feel, if you're not familiar with either one, it can feel like there's a bit of a blur or there's an overlap. And So we thought that would be a really good topic to kind of dive into. So we're going to make those distinctions, but then we're also going to focus on, if you're new to coaching or you're thinking about coaching, we're also going to dive into what that looks like as well, because we are coaches, we are not therapists, just to put that out there. We are trained coaches. And so we're going to talk about what we know best. So maybe the first thing to make the distinction of, Mag, is mentoring. In some ways, it's the simplest one,
Mm-hmm.
in the sense that it's about passing on and sharing your experience and wisdom and knowledge from your work. You might be a subject matter expert, or you just might have been in the industry that you're in for quite some time. And you're sharing your expertise and passing that on with somebody else, providing guidance. Now, you don't need formal mentor training to do that. You can elect and offer up that service, right?
Mm-hmm. Instinctively. And that is one that I feel is the most common one found in society. I mean, if we think of the grandparent and the child, it's kind of a natural one of passing on, and it's a legacy thing. You know, if that's one of your values, then it feels really natural to do that. And I think in the workplace, it's one that people regularly know what it means. So they're like, okay, I need a mentor. Who's good at this? Who do I want to be like? Who inspires me? How can I get into their brain? How can I take pieces of them and make it my own and
Yeah.
grow on that path? It's very focused, I think, because it's like, I want to be like you in some ways. And, it's very questioning. How do I get to this level? What did you do? What tools helped you?
Right.
So it's very much you coming and saying, give me all you have.
Yes. Well, the shortcuts, right? Don't make the mistakes I made. Here's
Absolutely.
a tip about how to cut through something quicker, and so on. So in a lot of ways, mentoring is probably the simpler distinction, incredibly valuable, and
Really
for
valuable.
sure, if you're wanting to accelerate or break into an industry or a sector, or wanting to develop yourself, you can have mentors within the company that you work in or externally as well to give you a different perspective. So they come in all guises, and if you have the chance of someone mentoring, and also it's possible to just approach someone and say, hey, could you be my mentor? I really love what you're doing and what you've achieved, and I'd love to learn from you. So we can ask that of people, right?
Absolutely. And I think the intentionality of that question is really useful because it gives the mentor the permission to give all they have. You sometimes you don't want to overstep the mark. You're like, I don't want to be a know-it-all, or I don't know what this person wants from me. But the intentionality of saying, I would like to learn from you, can you be my mentor? It opens up a lot of permission of behavior and a sort of a contract between those two people, which is
Yeah,
really useful.
yeah, definitely. Definitely. And I guess one final thing to say is that it is an informal partnership. It can be open ended. You might see them, meet them for coffee, or have chats with them on a monthly basis, once a year, whatever kind of works mutually, right? Um, so that's mentoring. Therapy might be the next thing to touch on. Um, Therapy, and if you look up and do a search on the distinctions between coaching and therapy, the most common one and the simple one to kind of get our heads around is that therapy is about healing,
Hmm.
and coaching is about making planning into the future, and working out how you can get there. What thoughts come to mind for you, Mag, on that?
So, specifically, I think when I think about therapy, I think about healing a past event or trauma. So it's already occurred, and it's almost a feeling of you carrying a load and you want to relieve yourself of that load. And it involves a lot of really, really hard work. And, hats off to everyone in therapy. It is a real investment and self love. And it's something that I really encourage, my clients at the right point when that is the modality that might be more effective for them, more effective in parallel. So
Mm.
it's really about, yourself right now, knowing that there is an investment that you can make in healing your past. And in doing that, that will help you move forward. It's very, emotionally based, and it's kind of not linear in some ways. There could be a lot of investigation in the past and sharing and reflection. So it can be an unknown quantity, but really, really super valuable and
Mm.
productive, and and painful at times, and insightful, and it can definitely move people forward in some way that coaching moves forward as well. Therapy does that, but with the intention of looking back. That's kind of what comes to mind
Yeah,
to me. How about
yeah.
you?
Yeah, definitely. It's about working out and unpacking some unhelpful behaviors that we have, or past experiences, and trying to make sense of them, or deal with a very serious mental health condition. And you would want to be working with a licensed professional, a licensed
Absolutely
therapist.
vital.
And there are different. You've got psychologists, psychiatrists, some specialize. And as we mentioned at the very beginning, Mag and I are not trained
No,
therapists, but because of the work that we do, and there is a little bit of crossover. I'm going to come to that a little bit later. Um, in terms of what we might touch on, but it's always being clear that as a coach, there is a line that becomes really clear where, while working with us is fantastic, um, that
hopefully.
individual that individual might be better served to have some therapy intervention of some kind, and our role in that case is to coach the individual towards working out what it is, what's the ask, what do they need to do to get that help. So they, therapists and counselors and so on, they're in a better position to be able to support you on that. And certainly psychiatrists and psychologists, and I hope I'm getting this right, are the ones who would diagnose what's going on for you. And they also deal with things like some neurodiverse conditions as well. So they might be the ones that actually diagnose either autism or ADHD and so on. So there's a lot of help that they provide. And as coaches, we have to be really clear about that to not overstep the mark. And if we're putting our client at the heart of the solution and what's best for them, we would counsel that they seek that other help. So hopefully that's clear, but it might get a little bit clearer if we talk about coaching now, Mag.
Well, I wanted to just say one more thing, because in the last point I mentioned regarding mentoring, how it's really like sort of mainstream in society as a norm. And I think that therapy is still loaded with a bit of stigma. I think we're making progress on that, every year. But I really want to say that, it is such a healthy modality to be in. It's really about self-love and self-care. And it is vital, as as we kind of say, the difference between a mentor and a therapist, like being licensed, being really rigorous about your training and learning, and following all of the standards of therapy, and also supporting yourself as a therapist. And you're required to have therapy yourself so that you can unpack all of the things that you need to as a person to be able to show up for your clients. So it's a thing almost that we need to give our clients in coaching, is the permission and to destigmatize therapy and make it an out in the light and a really valid modality that can work really well in parallel, actually, with the other two modalities of coaching and mentoring.
I have some clients who are doing both at the same time, and that's a very personal decision that can be down to time, down to your availability, and what you're ready to explore, or how therapy can be really hard work emotionally.
Really,
it can be a really tough place to be, invaluable, but doubtlessly tough at times if you're unpacking some difficult stuff or trauma, and so it is an investment in yourself to try and work through those and reach a point where they're not debilitating for you in terms of your life or quality of life. So then, and thanks for that, Mag. Thanks for that. That's a really important point you made. Coaching. A lot of people call themselves coaches.
a favorite.
I think the main thing that certainly I want to put out there is that great coaches and have invested in their training and their development and their skill, and they're supervised, and they take their accreditation seriously, and they adhere to a code of ethics around their work. It's not. You're not licensed in the way that you are as a therapist, but you are credentialed, and the International Coach Federation is one of those bodies that it does takes you through a very rigorous process of securing your accreditations. And all the courses that you do as a coach have, ideally you want them to have the big sign off from a coaching body like the International Coach Federation. And so there are standards, there are competencies that we have to train in, we have to prove our skill. Some of that is submitting recordings with the permission of individuals who are in that conversation, submitting recordings so that supervisors and master coaches and so on can, listen to your performance and give you feedback and assess your level of competency or mastery, I guess, around that. And so if you are thinking about partnering with a coach, then that's something to, just as you would do the due diligence with a therapist, ask about the accreditation and what level and training they have received, because that's just as important, because that's the experience you're paying for and that you're going to get in that relationship. And so coaching is about building for the future. Sometimes I talk about it as having a private sparring partner. But ultimately it's having a thinking partner, someone who's going to hold that safe space, right? No judgment.
A thinking ally, if you will.
That's right, Mag, a thinking ally. And there's a way of being in that conversation as a coach for your client. Do you want to add to that?
Yes, I would love to. So, and I'm really hoping that this talk helps people to understand what coaching is for, because I think there can be a lot of hesitancy because people don't know what they should choose or what's for what. And I hope this talk will shed some light. So specifically with coaching, you know, in its detail, I see it as two people sitting down together in a distraction-free space. So there's the coach and the client, and they are focused. You know, they're not going to be looking at their phone. You know, it's a bit old school, but ideally they have a pen and paper, and the coach is there to facilitate their way forward. And the coach and the client are on equal footing. They are walking the path together. There's no hierarchy. And it's really about creating a safe and trusted space. It's confidential as per our legal agreements with our clients. So it is our duty, when we adhere to the ethical standards, that we don't disclose the information that is discussed in the sessions with the client. That's part of building that safe space and trust. And then it's a matter of us, you know, you said sparring partner, and you know, that's quite violent, actually. My kind of coaching is much more
I didn't mean it that
peaceful.
way.
I don't know, I'm just saying, if you're making a choice here, people. So it's really about creating that safe space of trust where somebody can really be themselves. And it's about letting them think out loud. And we are not, as much as we do all the training and we adhere to all the standards and we continuously train and we get supervision, we are not the experts in this situation. They are the experts. They're the source of all things. They're not asking us the questions. We're asking them the questions. And then when they give us an answer, we're asking them some more questions. And, you know, I enjoyed this the other day in a session. Somebody asked me a question and I said, that's a really great question. What do you think? So you never answer a question as a coach. It's all about helping the person to see their own way. So in them sharing, you know, what they have spoken about, you're sitting back and you're listening in a non-judgmental and positive space. You have unconditional positive regard for this person. You believe they can do what they say they can do. So coaching is all about asking them questions and listening deeply and following their thread and keeping your stuff out of it. Like, if you think the best way to solve this problem is to buy a Ferrari, forget it. It doesn't matter. You know, it's not up to you. It's up to them. So you have to do a lot of self-management in coaching so that you're really mining the valuable information from your client. And then there's lots of reflection. It's like a real mirror. It's like saying, okay, you said this and this sounded really important. There's a lovely thing about say what you see. So I see this is really emotional for you, or I see this is energizing for you, or where does that come from? Like, there's so many different types of questions as well. There's like clarifying, where you didn't really understand something as a coach and you want to make sure. And actually that brings a lot of clarity to the client. You can be challenging, where your sparring partner comes in. There just are lots of different angles we're going from. And then, you know, when we get to the point regarding the different modalities where we feel, okay, maybe you might benefit from a mentor. What benefits do you think you might get from that? How would you go about finding it? We can coach people to get that. And then with regards to therapy, at some point, we will not have the skills to help our clients. And it is as simple as that. And I think, and I'd love to hear how you feel. I would love emotionally to have the skills to help my clients when it comes to that, but knowing that the line is being crossed and I do not have the skills and I don't have the training and I don't have the supervision and I haven't had the therapy in the way that a licensed therapist would.
Mm-hmm.
And having that conversation takes bravery, saying, okay, I think we're at a point here where we've, gone over this thing a few times, but I feel there's something else in here. And,
Yeah.
exploring and then.
And I think that's an important point, especially as if you are a leader who coaches, if you have some coaching skills, um, it's about recognizing that something else is needed here and that you don't have to step into that. Sometimes we can feel a massive sense of responsibility. And this came up in discussion with a cohort this morning. When someone tells us something that is clearly a mental health issue or a psychological issue, something could be quite, someone's life is on the line. It's important that we can be supportive in that moment. We can manage our own emotions, but be empathetic and compassionate to the individual. But we're there to provide some clarity of thought. And so it's really important that we can carry ourselves in that situation and still be there for the individual and help them get to a point of clarity about what they need to do next and how can they get some extra help and who could they talk to. So helping them think about what their next steps need to be in that regard. But it can feel like a responsibility when someone shares something difficult, devastating. But it's just recognizing that that's what's going on. But, we don't have to step into that space because we're ill-equipped to. We're not, if you put the individual at the center, then we're not the person to help them through that, right? And so it's really important that they feel they can go and ask for that help and seek it and get it. So that's our role there, is to help them get to that point. Also, I think, coaching conversations are structured conversations. I mean, they are distinct in that way. There is a flow to the conversation. And someone, again, in reflecting on learning so far, in a Leaders Who Coach cohort, one individual said, they feel like their conversations have structure now in a way that they didn't before. And therefore the conversations are much more productive. And the other thing is not, in the way that a mentor might give you advice and suggest or recommend that you take certain steps. A coach's role is to help you brainstorm what are those steps. And do some stress testing around it. Is that going to work? Is that the best approach for you? And it's all tailored to how you learn best, how you grow best. And we're not there to provide the solution. We're there to help you do the thinking so that you come up with the solution yourself, because you're accountable at the end of the day. All the results from coaching are yours. Right? If you agree that you're going to do something and then you don't, that's a choice that the individual makes. And so it is the individual who's accountable for what they say they want and whether they actually execute on it. So that's where the results come from actually moving on those things. So, but as a coach, it is being that thinking partner and understanding there are different phases of a conversation. There are, setting up the conversation and getting really clear about what do you want to walk away with is really key. Because if you don't do that, the conversation quickly loses shape and form, and you can be half an hour in and go, what are we trying to do here? Right. So,
and that's our job, isn't it? It's figuring. So I think we've gone into the territory a bit of what a session looks like now.
Yes.
So we've kind of a little bit, we've talked about the housekeeping part, saying, okay, this is mentoring, this is therapy. We're going to try and keep the track, the bowling lane, right here. And, there might be a slight dip of a toe over the line. And then as long as we bring it back to coaching, that's okay. But then in terms of, I think people don't know what coaching is about and how do they need to prepare in advance, or what are the expectations of them. So, you've started talking about it there. What is a coaching session? And I think about it as two people sitting down and the coach asking, what are we going to work on today? After having a nice little, chat to reconnect and sort of arriving physically, being in the moment. What are we going to work on today? Or what's on your mind today? Or what's your goal? And then really clarifying that. So someone might say a high level thing and we really, get down into the detail. And then I like to say, okay, what does success look like in the time that we have towards that goal today? And then we've got a measure by the end of the session as to what success looks like. So the contracting is really, really important. And that gives the structure that you were talking about there. So there's the goal, there's what success is at the end. And then our job is to ask questions towards that goal, to reflect, and then to ask more questions to get the person clearer and clearer along the way. And, as a coach, I think you go on this journey of pressure as well, and ego and, failure. It's all in your head and you're trying to manage all this. Am I asking these amazing questions? And the thing is, as you go on and you get more experience, I think you pull back a bit. And the less you do, this sounds terrible, but it's true. The less you do, the more effective you are. So like really holding back, and different coaches have different techniques. Like one has 3 buttons next to their, desk, and they're only allowed to ask 3 important questions. So they're really like, it's ways of self-managing, because what we don't want to do is we don't want to lead the client. We don't want to give yes or no questions. We want them to elaborate. We don't want to lead them by the question in any way. We want it to be open. So like in the middle of a coaching conversation, it's fine to ask the client, so where are we? This is our goal. This is where we're trying to get to. Is this helpful? So then it becomes, the client is the hero throughout the conversation. They're the ones that are doing all the heavy lifting, and we're trying to hold the space and remind them of the things they've said, because they're like doing all the cognitive heavy lifting in terms of talking, thinking, sharing, fact finding. And there are many tools that are available to us as coaches, to help them to get along that journey. Does that echo what your coaching sessions look like as well?
Yeah, absolutely. It's about making sure that the individual is at the center, that they are in control, and the checking in is really important, because conversations do go off on tangent, and it's a great way to just be certain that what they're getting from the conversation is useful. Because the last thing we want is for them to go, "Oh, this is kind of interesting, but it's not helping me," or it's completely in a different direction. Now, a good coach, you shouldn't be in that space of kind of wondering, why are we talking about this when actually I want to talk about something else. Because that, as you say, that would have been contracted at the beginning. So, okay, you want to walk away with X, Y, and Z, and we'll know that we've got there when you've got X. And that comes down to the individual, how they like to learn, how they like to operate.
Yep.
And even, down to, like I say, sparring partner, because some clients, look for the challenge, want to be challenged more often than not in sessions, because they kind of want to get out of maybe some of their blind spots and become more aware of different ways and to really experiment. And some people learn differently. Some people need to have experience of doing something. Sometimes we role play, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That conversation sounds really scary. The idea, terrifies me to go and have that exchange with someone. Okay, well, what does that look like? Let's play around with that. And that sense of familiarity becomes less scary, less, we know what we're going to say and what we're going to say next and what we say after that, and how we respond, how we're going to hold ourselves in that conversation. So we get to try on lots of different ways of being, right?
In a safe space.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
There are many tools that we learn as coaches, and I have some favorites that I would love to just generally
Yes.
share.
Yeah.
There's one that really sticks with me is, it's as simple as this. It's visualization. It's somebody comes in and they say, I want to be this. So we'll take an example. I want to be a confident public speaker. And you ask them a question. You just say, what does it look like? Tell me what you're wearing, what you had for breakfast, and how it went. And it is utterly an honor and a privilege to watch someone go through all this. And you get such incredible detail about how they feel, what's important to them, like little details that actually become hooks for them to grow and move towards that. And the act of visualizing is really powerful in the brain. It brings the emotions of the event, and the same with role playing. I think that's a similar parallel to that. It really just helps them to know in advance what they want, what success looks like, almost like externally coaching themselves. That's a wonderful thing. And then sort of checking where they are now versus that future vision. And then, we're not mentors. They're not asking us questions. We're not the experts. What tools have you got? Tell me how you're going to use those tools, or what's worked for you in the past. Tell me about a time when you felt this thing that you want to feel in public speaking. Like, it's wonderful. I really genuinely feel like it is an utter privilege to be able to be in that trusted space with somebody else where they're sharing with you. And it's different to a conversation. Conversations are two-way, and if you think of having a chat with a friend, you're both listening, but you're both talking. So there isn't quite the cleanliness of really deep listening. And
you're
it's
riffing
cool.
off each other. I mean, in a
Yeah,
sort of a synchronized way. You're something that somebody says triggers an experience or a thought or
yeah,
something that you want to share back. And so, yeah, coaching conversation is different to that. As a coach, you should be 20% of the time talking, and the rest
yes.
of the time.
It's been an incredible journey
Yeah.
for me, and my bestie was born with natural listening skills, and she was just teasing me this very morning. She's like, "You really needed to become a coach to improve your listening skills." I read. Then there is also, there's a few tools that I really love. So that kind of one, the visualizing is part of the Grow model. I really enjoy, one of my favorite tools is force field analysis, where somebody has a decision to make. So they're at a crossroads and they're like, I don't know if I'm going to go left or right. And they're really feeling confused and scattered and all over the place. And they're thinking in their head, they're emotional, they're tired from carrying the weight of this. And, I'm hands off. I've been only a Zoom coach for my whole career as a coach. But they're in another room somewhere else, and we're connected visually, and they have a pen and paper, and the question is on top. Do I want to take the job as a lead, for example? And then there's pluses and minuses. There's forces drawing them towards this, and there's forces drawing them away, and they list them all out. And basically it becomes really clear to the person what they want to do, just from getting it out of their head in a
Right.
structured manner. And we're not miracle workers here. They're doing all the heavy lifting. And I just find when they get to that moment of clarity, they're like, obviously, it's clear. I know what to do
Right.
now. It's
Right.
wonderful.
Well, it is a privilege to see that happen, and our role is to create the conditions for them to even have that thought. Because very often people say, "I never would have come to this point if I hadn't had this conversation with you." And you're right. That's not. We're not. Miracle workers, but we are creating the right condition for them to just think, to be in flow with their thinking, and also be able to look at something that may be a little bit difficult, that may be an obstacle, and just be with it for a little bit, and analyze it in a way that we don't get a chance to day to day.
Mm-hmm.
You actually can dive deep on the minutiae of an incident at work in a way that maybe your life partner no doesn't do for you. I don't know any. It's a very hard place as a life partner to be able to dive deep in with someone, unless you've got the skills to be able to ask the questions and hold that space. And so for that individual, when do they get a chance to get everything out of their head and look at it and examine what's going on and play with it, in a way that is a structured way of looking at it, an analysis? What's coming up for you? Why is that, why are we getting stuck here? Is that, what is that about? What's underneath all of that? So there are ways of realizing, at certain points, certain questions can be incredibly powerful and can unlock someone and help them, give them permission to see something, or even admit that I'm angry with that person, I'm frustrated with them, or I don't like that person, or these are things that you can't say because there are repercussions for it. But in a coaching conversation, you do yourself a disservice if you're not honest about the feelings that you have and take a moment to sort of unpack those. And if you're a leader, it's exceptionally lonely. You've got doubts and concerns, things you're worried about that you don't want to share with other people because it might throw them off course. Where are you going to have those conversations? Where are you going to get your head clear and then know how to be your best self as a result, right? And how you want, being more in control of how you want to show up. And, in Leaders Who Coach, we've got the Who energy model, and starting to see, that as a leader who coaches, your role is to help someone get into a positive state of mind where they might come to you in quite a negative state of mind. And that isn't about telling them what to do. That's about helping them see what they're great at, what they have achieved, what is possible, what they can work through, what obstacles they can move past, or what they can experiment with and try something different. And so, and yes, just to come back to sort of to wrap it up, I guess, confidentiality is key.
Yeah.
And certainly when I'm working with organizations and leaders in their organizations, I'm really clear with them about, don't ask me what's discussed in the session because I won't tell you. And there's only one way that you will find out, and that would be because the individual comes and tells you direct because they want to. So I may surface themes if I'm working with a leadership team. I'll surface themes that are coming up across the leadership team, but I would never reveal who said what when, or specifics of what was discussed in a conversation, because that's not my place to, ethically. And it's down to the individual to make that decision as to what they want to share. And often the coaching session might be about something that they're grappling with, or they're trying to figure out a best approach for. And so what their boss may experience is them flexing that ability to advocate for themselves or hold that conversation that we've practiced doing. So that helps them in, okay, I need my boss to advocate for me or to sell this in as a proposal. How do I have that conversation? Or I've got a peer who I seem to get off on the wrong foot with every time. How do I break that cycle and establish a much healthier relationship, a working relationship with them?
I liked what you said there earlier about, if you could talk to a friend or a spouse, life partner. The thing that's really important in coaching, I think, is the fact that we're not the problem solvers. It's the client. We are just asking them to get things out in the open and then look at it and put it back together in a way that's more productive. So we have to really sit back in that solution providing role. We have to get rid of it completely as coaches. And also with regard to confidentiality, and in executive coaching, it is the company who's paying. And being really clear with the leadership team that this is a purely confidential conversation. And yes, bringing up the themes is really important, but that really solidifies the trust thing there. And I was wondering, if it would be a useful question to ask you, why would somebody come to coaching and what can they expect from it? Just to give our 3.5 million followers
Yes.
a clear answer.
It's kind of if you're stuck on something, and I'll give you reasons for that clients come to me. There's a conflict going on in their work. They're unable to connect with their boss or get their boss to listen to them. They feel unseen in their organization and or have been passed over for promotion or various things that they feel like there's a block on them, and they're aware that something isn't working, but they don't know how to work through that. It may be someone who has an awareness that their approach or their style is not helpful, or isn't being well received by team members or their boss. They may be someone who is new to leadership, first time leading a team, and that can be anything from, as you know, from a team lead to the founder or CEO. If you're talking about scale up or startup companies, very often there are people in that role who haven't had the experience of leading teams in that way. Most people, progress through their careers because they're subject matter experts, not because they know how to motivate people or their teams or get the best out of them. Some people want to know how, I need to have one-to-ones and I have no idea how to do that. What should I be doing? It feels like hard work. How do I approach this? So there are lots of reasons, and it's about deciding what do I, there's something I want to achieve, and I don't know how to get there. So talk to a coach and find out whether you connect with them, whether the chemistry works between you. Because different coaches have different styles, they have different industry expertise,
different levels of violence.
I'm not violent, I
know, I'm teasing.
And so yeah, what would you add to that, Mag?
So I would add to that there are also different modalities within coaching itself. So you've been touching on a lot of business areas there, leadership, growing skills within your work area. There's also the personal side of it as well. So I want to run a marathon. I want to have a better relationship with my kids. I want to learn to rest. I want to become a TED speaker. It's basically life. It's anything in life. And people get the fear as well, I think. They're like, oh my God, I have to be so prepared for this coaching session. And often clients will come and they actually don't necessarily know what they want to talk about. And we can unpack that. That's as good a place to start as well. Right. If you're just feeling. So, and that's something we hold space for, is the feelings as well. Like, I've experienced it on both sides of coaching, being a client and being the coach. Feelings come up, and feelings are a wonderful release. And as coaches, we sit and we hold that space in a non-judgmental way. And then we blow our nose, and have a glass of water, and we carry on in a gentle way. So it's a whole journey, and the process of it is really about a person getting clarity on where they are, where they want to go, and how to get there. And you mentioned earlier on in the talk about actions, and you stress test. So in a coaching session, there's the goal, if there is one, or there's discovering what the goals might be. That could be a session 2. There is checking success. There is all of the reflecting and question asking and checking in along the way. And then at the end of the session, there is genuinely setting the stage for open feedback. There's, how did I do as a coach for you today? Or name one thing we could have done better, whatever the question that works is, so that we can genuinely take the feedback from our clients. And we might have different modalities, like you said, with the sparring partner.
Hmm.
I've definitely had clients who are like, can you be more bossy with me? Like as if you were my boss and you want me to do things. And I was like, okay, I can do that. And then others might like a much gentler approach where there's lots of silence for thinking. And that's wonderful for us to get to flex in all those internal modalities within
Yeah.
coaching.
Yeah.
And then the actions are, it's not a teacher student relationship. It's not a boss and member of the team. It's not a parent child. You're taking the actions to get to your goals.
Hmm.
And we check in. Is this feeling right? Do you really want to do this? You're not trying to make me happy here as the coach. You're trying to make yourself get into the flow. And we use different things to try and help people to find their flow and stay in
Hmm.
their flow. And I think one of the two things that we could agree on are sort of values and strengths. So what are the building blocks of me? What are the things that are non, you know, they just have to be there. They're non-negotiable points. I am optimistic, I'm ethical, I believe in equality. And then you can use those values to make decisions so that you stay aligned to those to help you stay in your flow. And then, you might explore your strengths. So if we take the example of a new lead coming to you, we'll find out what are their realized strengths and go through
Hmm.
those. That's often really encouraging. Someone will have more self-belief after really digging into those and
Yeah.
clarifying what they are and how they can use them. And then there might be room for exploring the unrealized strengths and bringing those in more to counteract. And it's all about growth of the person in their own way in the direction that they want to grow.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
that would be
Yeah.
everything I can think of right now.
No, well, that's great, Mag. Absolutely, it is. And just to touch on the values thing, it's we can compromise our values, or they can get compromised, and that can often be the source of the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And taking the time to understand that is really important. What is going on? Why am I feeling unbalanced here? What's at stake?
Mm-hmm.
And why is this important? Why now? And also understanding that that plays through all our decision making, right? And it doesn't matter what collection of values you have, but if they are being compromised in some way, it's noticing that that's happening, and therefore that can unlock where you go next, right? So that's a lot of ground, Mag. There is so much, I'm sure, that we could add to that. But I think for anyone who's curious about what those distinctions are, I hope we made those clear about coaching and therapy and mentoring. And the counsel from me certainly is, do the research. Uh, be sure that you can work with the coach, that you feel comfortable with them, because that really matters.
Mm-hmm.
And learn to articulate what it is that you're looking for. Use those opportunities to understand yourself better, and how you thrive. What are the conditions that you need to thrive? Because that ability to self advocate will stand you in good stead your whole life. I mean, those are things that I wish someone had had conversations with me about early in my career, about what is important to me, and how does that show up in my life, with the people I care about, with the people I work with, and when will I stand my ground and when will I compromise? Those things are enormously grounding for anyone at any stage of their career. But yeah, I mean, we can spend 20 years trying to figure all that out. When potentially working with a coach, you can fast track and get there quicker. So that's I would always recommend that, if you're ambitious and wanting to get somewhere, and you feel like you want to get there sooner, then get to know yourself for sure. more
Great.
on that. I just wanted to wrap up with I didn't show it earlier, and I'm going to put a link in the comments so that anyone who's interested, there is an International Coach Federation. They do have a report in there, which I think shows that distinction really well. Sorry, Mag, covered you there, but it's actually a much longer document than that. But I thought that was sufficient. But this might help to make the distinction about what when would a coach actually refer you to seek therapy intervention. So that's something I'll put the links for. The other piece of resource that you might enjoy is there is on betterconversations.co, on that URL that you can see there is an infographic about how to conduct a really good feedback conversation. And so it talks in there about the flow of the conversation, the structure of it, and the phases of creative alignment and contracting as being perhaps the two distinctions. Everyone has a different way of talking about the structure of it, but that might be helpful if that's of interest there. Next week, I'll just leave that up while I tell you about next week. I'm going to be joined by Glenn Martin, and we're going to be talking about the longevity of your leader hires. So Glenn and I have a lot of discussions and exchanges about, because we work in the space of scale-up companies, how do you make sure that you're recruiting the right person into the role, and what are the leadership skills that are needed? Very often, as I mentioned earlier, some people are new into being in a leadership role, and they're not aware of certain either legal requirements when hiring, but also just how to show up themselves and what to look for in other leaders that they may be interviewing. So that is next week. Let me just turn some knobs here. So that's next week with Glenn. So do join us. It'll be Tuesday at 1:00. Some other sort of notices here for you folks. Do subscribe on YouTube. You will find this video on YouTube and a whole bunch of others that may help you at different stages of your career, your leadership, conversations that you need to have. We've got interviews on there with people who are specialists in their field, either other leaders, coaches, or people who facilitate and support people in terms of leadership growth, or we talk about ethics, or we talk about design, all of those things you will find there. So you can find us on YouTube by just searching for Better Conversations, or that's the URL. And we can add us here,
fancy.
right, Mo?
Yeah.
Yeah, to the Better Conversations podcast. So you'll find us on, I think, most of the platforms, your favorite podcast platform. You'll find us there. One other piece of thing I do want to share, if I may.
Go ahead.
Let me just set this up, Mag, so I'm not overlaying too many overlays here.
You're like the Wizard of Oz today.
No, I am. This is going to be available soon, and if you're watching the replay, it may already be available. So check in the comments for details about it. So the Leaders Who Coach program, with its 100 plus video lectures, is available. If you're reading this at the point of it being done, is going to be available as an audio edition, so you can actually just listen to all the video lectures for all 100 videos covering the 4 competencies, the 12 skills. You'll find that all there. So if you tend to be an audio type person and you like to listen stuff as you're doing other things, then you might want to get your hands on this. It'll be available on a podcast platform. More details in the comments and coming out soon. So look out for that. That's kind of, and that's by request of people who have leaders who've gone on the Leaders Who Coach program. So just some of us like to listen to things that way.
And just for context, that's where my coaching journey started. Thank you very much. It started with Leaders Who Coach, and through that, I really felt connected to the coaching modality, and here we are today. We might have confused people earlier. It is actually not an ICF requirement for all coaches to wear stripes during sessions, or so I just wanted to clear that up in case anyone was afraid.
Yes, maybe we should get that one sorted
We get it.
beforehand.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
I quite like our stripes.
We'll
Like our
WhatsApp
stripes.
what's the next theme on the next
Yeah.
chat.
Well, maybe we can ask how many fans have we got now,
There's
Meg?
a
Maybe?
lot
There's a
of
lot.
zeros in there.
Yeah. There's what approximately 3.256 million or something like that.
It's
Yes.
constantly
We can
growing.
ask them what we should
Yeah,
wear.
we'll ask them. Yeah. Oh, that could get dangerous.
That
It could get dangerous.
Yes, stripes or no stripes. Well, so thank you. Thanks, Mag. That's been a really, really, I think, quite a thorough discussion, and I'm sure we'll add to it and provide links and so on if anyone's got any questions on those. And yeah.
What I really hope out of this is that actually more people turn to coaching as a modality. I really feel it's the process works. And it is a wonderful experience to give yourself.
Someone said to me this morning that they used their coaching skills with one of their direct reports, and it was such a powerful experience for them that they were in they were in tears, and they were tears not of sadness, but tears of, wow, in all my career, I've never felt that someone has seen me in this way, or seen me at all. And it was just like, wow, well, that's why you're a coach, right? That's why you do what you do, because it is just about being seen, and you know, we all need that from time to time.
Absolutely.
So that's good. It's an important thing to ask for.
Great.
Brilliant. Thank you, Mag. I'm sure we'll be back on together at some point. But yes, do join us, Better Conversations Live on Tuesday next week.
Great. A pleasure. Delightful.
Yes. Take care, everyone.